Hey, it's Tim Gaynor with Coach Develop and Inspire. Today I'm joined with my son, my favorite son.
Only
son, Evan.
Hi there.
Hey, today we've been talking about discipline, and one of my favorite quotes of discipline is from John Maxwell, and it's doing the things that you don't want to do so that you can do the things that you do want to do. So I'm curious, we've talked about discipline a lot growing up, and I'm curious, what is your definition, or who is someone that has a good definition of discipline that really helps you when you're trying to push through things that you need to get done?
I think so. One quote I kind of like is from this inspirational military speaker named Jocko, and it's basically discipline equals freedom. If you don't have the discipline, you're not going to have freedom, and that seems kind of counterintuitive, but if I want the freedom to just kind of go out and eat whatever I want, that is a type of freedom, but there's also the freedom of I'm going to do something every day to get to where I want to, and that is also another type of freedom.
No, I like that. Inspirational, and Jocko in the same sentence. He's frighteningly inspirational.
Yes.
He's a former Navy SEAL, and if you ever listen to his podcast, which you should go check them out, they're amazing. He is very intense,
yes,
but he is straight at you, and he's not messing around. It is very good stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, so what are some things that maybe you're working on now, or you've worked on in the past, and what are the things that you did to stay disciplined in those arenas?
I think something for me, staying disciplined is actually very hard, to be self-disciplined. I'm actually very good at being disciplined when it's almost forced from the outside, like being a part of a football team and they say you're running until I get tired. I'm good at doing that, but if you want me to go to a field by myself and just run until I get tired, it's not going to happen. So for me, always having somebody to be accountable to is a very good part of being disciplined.
I like that. It's certainly so much easier to go to the gym to work out if someone's going, hey, let's go, or hey, hey, I'll meet you at 4. We'll go to the gym, and you're more than likely not to want to let someone down.
Yeah, exactly.
With you because you want to go, versus it's just yourself. You can let yourself down and make an excuse, and I'll just go tomorrow. It's not a big deal. So, what are other ways? What's something you're working on now? What is something you're working on now in your life that you have to be disciplined? Otherwise, it's just going to go sideways.
I mean, most things. So my job is probably one of the biggest things so I need to have photos. I'm a photographer, I do real estate, and I will go home and shoot. After shooting all day, I have to go home and edit all those photos and deliver those photos within 24 hours. And just getting distracted for an hour on Netflix or social media really hurts my time and what I want to do with that day. So staying disciplined and setting the time to do my work, or even setting my time to do that workout, is very helpful in trying to get disciplined and stay disciplined.
Yeah, and so your world right now is you're full-time, you work full-time, and at certain times in the year, as a real estate photographer, they're much busier than others. So, during the spring and summer months, you could be working, 60, 70, 80 hours just on that, and you're student.
Yeah.
You're in college, you've got another year left of college to finish, so you're taking some classes at the same time. And you're 22, so I think you like to go out and have a good time with your friends and everything.
I hate it.
You hate it? Oh, man. That's news to me. He's just saying that because I'm right here. You live in the mountains, so you love to go hiking, camping, skiing. You love all those things. How do you fit all those things in so that you're doing a good job in each one of those, more importantly the school, and then your job, which you're getting paid for, but still allowing you some freedom to go out and do the things that you like to do, like the hiking and camping and skiing? How do you organize that to stay disciplined throughout your week? So as your quote from Jocko, having the freedom to be able to do those things. How do you do that?
I'm going to be honest, I'm not very good at it, and that's one thing I need to work on, is trying to be disciplined so I can always do the things that I want to do. And that goes directly to Jocko's quote, is like, I could do 60, 70 hours of work week, and that was it. And then I spend the rest of the time just relaxing and entertaining myself. But there's so much more that I want to go do, and that's the freedom that kind of Jocko talks about, is to have the freedom of do the work and then go out and do whatever you want to do is a big part of that.
So what gets you in your way? You said you're not very good at it. What gets you in your way?
I get distracted. I get bored and kind of want to do something else and not sit at a computer screen for hours on end. And then something that happens just doing work 60, 70 hours a week is burnout. It's just, you get so tired of doing the same thing every day and just wanting to just break away and do anything else. I think is kind of a big part in the busy season for me.
Yeah, so when you find yourself doing that and, not staying on task and watching Netflix or playing video games like you said, how do you get back on track so you do, because you do well at your job, you get good grades, so I know somewhere along the line you get back on track.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting there watching Netflix and playing Star Wars video game for how many hours in a row, and you're like, man, I got all this work to do, whether it's school or what makes you get back on track?
I think what has helped me more recently is scheduling out everything, is scheduling out the fun time in my life. Because if I do that, I know, all right, I only have to do 2 hours of work, and then after that I can play video games, or I can go for a hike, or I can go skiing. So kind of making sure I have set times for certain activities. So it's not when I'm in the middle of work, I'm starting to play, I'm like, oh, I already have time for this. I need to set that down for that specific time.
I love that. A lot of time, almost all the time, to be honest, when I'm talking with a coaching client or I'm working with a business executive that we're working on their goal setting and kind of getting shifted around, almost what I hear almost every time is, I just don't have time. I just don't have the time. And, and when I tell them, I say, you know what, here's what I want you to do. I want to map out your week. Every half hour for the next 7 days, I want you to fill in what you did. And I'm not talking 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. I'm like a half hour. And good news, hopefully somewhere 6 to 8 hours of that you're sleeping, so that knocks out a good portion of the day. And the rest of the day, write down what you're doing. And then every single time when they come back, I look at the calendar, I go, so what are some of these things, these time frames that you weren't working on, what you wanted to do that you say you don't have time for? What were you doing? And a lot of it's like you said, well, I was playing video games, I was scrolling on social media, I jumped in, started watching a movie, got sucked in. I really wasn't doing the things that I want to do. And I'm like, well, do you want to do those things? And he's like, well, those are fun, but that's getting me away from my goal. And I always use it kind of like a plate. We're around the holiday season now. You think of your Thanksgiving plate, only so much can fit on your plate, right? You put everything on there. Now you're like, oh crap, I forgot the sweet potatoes. Well, to put the sweet potatoes on your plate, you got to take something off your plate. And that's the same thing with your schedule. If you want to put something on your plate, like, man, I really need those sweet potatoes, I got to take the roll off. Which one's more valuable, the roll or the sweet potatoes? Well, whichever one's more valuable stays on the plate. And that's the same thing with your schedule. Whatever's more valuable, whether it's sitting around watching Netflix, you're like, well, that's actually more valuable to me right now than working out, then keep the Netflix on there. But don't get mad about you being unhealthy because then it wasn't more valuable. If that's more valuable, you move the Netflix off, you put the workout on there. And like you said, you schedule that out going, each day I've got an hour to do this, my own time to relax and have freedom, and I got 2 hours I got to work on this. And you make it work. And it's amazing when you set a schedule, like in the next 2 hours I'm going to get this done, you'll get it done. If you leave it open boundaries and just say, hey, I'm going to work on this, it's amazing what you won't get done because you're all over the place and you're being distracted versus going, in these 2 hours, I'm going to knock it out, and then you knock it out.
Yeah.
What else would you say on the topic of discipline as we wrap this up? Because I look at you and I would think that you've been very disciplined. You played football, you played rugby, you were soccer, you went to school. You've always you were always very interested in starting your own business, and you found a college where you went to on your own of that, and the photography program there, and you've worked your tail off on a ton of different things. And I always found you very disciplined because if you want something, you'll get it. So I think it's interesting that even you, who I would look at and say would be disciplined, says, you know what, I could get better. There's things that I can do differently so I can even be more disciplined in certain areas of my life. So as we wrap this up, kind of what are your final thoughts on discipline?
I think one thing that everybody needs to work on is self-discipline, because I think that's the hardest part of it, because when you're alone in a room editing photos, it's so easy just to turn on Netflix and go to sleep, which I've done. I've done that. I then had to wake up at 3 a.m. to finish the photos before I had to go into work for the next day.
Right.
So those choices have consequences. So it's easier always just to be self-disciplined and follow that schedule that you make, and just, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and I love the way you started with having that accountability partner. Just tell someone, here's what I'm working on. Here's what my goals are, and just, hey, you check in with me. And again, you're not beating someone over the head with your check-in. You're really just saying, hey, how are you doing with this? This is something I know you wanted to work on. How's that coming? And it could be as well. You know what? Like you said, I'm not nearly along as far as I wanted to be on it. And then we talk through it. I say, what's getting in your way? What are things that I can help with? If again, hey, if it's go work out, let's go work out together. I'm working out, you're working out, let's do it together, and that holds each other accountable. So again, we've had a couple definitions of discipline. Whatever it is, you certainly need some systems in your life to keep you disciplined, start moving forward and accomplishing your goals and dreams. Again, Tim Gaynor and
Evan Gaynor
with Coach Develop and Inspire.